Lord Draken.
Well, hello and welcome back to a special video. I'm excited to present to you my first professional comic book work and first time working with comic book superstar David Finch on the cover to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 25. Now there were several other people that helped put this cover together as well. Foremost was David Finch, who provided the pencils, I provided the inks, and Trina Farrell provided the colors, and Meredith Finch acted as the project coordinator, threading our communication and keeping everything flowing smoothly. And overseeing the project is boom editor Dafna Pleban. I'm excited to be part of this comic book event for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, along with comic book superstar David Finch on this incentive comic book cover. There are special editions to this cover that are signed by actor Jason David Frank and comic book artist David Finch. And for you, my subscribers, I'm also going to be offering on this channel autographed copies of this retailer incentive cover by yours truly. So if you're a big fan of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and a fan of David Finch's artwork, like I am, and you want to be sure to get your copy of this cover. Also, if you collect original artwork, this original is for sale. And the amazing thing about David Finch's artwork is that the book isn't even out yet, and already there's interest in purchasing the original artwork for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 25. So if you're interested in purchasing the original artwork for this amazing cover for this comic book event, then you can go ahead and send an email to David Finch. In the description, you'll see my email, and you can go ahead and contact me as well if you'd like to inquire about purchasing the original artwork. But I wouldn't wait. There's already interested parties, and to be honest, it may already be sold. And now you get to follow my inking process from the time that I received the artwork all the way through to completion. So here it is, my first time inking over David Finch. Even though this was all a month ago, I still remember how nervous and excited I was, anticipating for the artwork to arrive. And then once the artwork arrived, I made sure that I scanned in the artwork because I didn't know how the paper was going to take the nib or the brush, how it was going to react to the ink. So just to be safe, I went ahead and made a high-res scan in case I had to reproduce the artwork and ink it a second time. But luckily, paper is great. Dave, being a professional, working with many different inkers, having lots of experience, he knew exactly what type of paper to draw on that was good for inks. So it turns out this paper was great. I want to say it is the Strathmore 500 series. It may have been plate. Could be the smooth surface, but it took the nib really well. I didn't have any trouble with it at all. The hardest part with the paper was the fact that it was so smooth, and the lead that Dave chose to pencil with is a hard grade of lead, and so it made it difficult to erase. But other than that, as far as inks, it was an excellent choice for paper. So when I start my inks, I usually like to start with outlining a figure or starting with a thicker outline so that I can build my line up. I generally like to ink somewhere that if the line weight isn't thick enough, then I can thicken the line. Or if the nib isn't working correctly, then I can add to that line. It's easier to hide a shakier line by adding ink to that, by building up to it, or sculpting it, kind of what a sculptor does with clay. Fortunately, the first nib that I pulled out of the box was a great nib, and the line work I was very satisfied with it, because not every single nib that you pull out of your box is going to be a really good nib. You're going to have a few duds within that box. And I use the box of 12, and this is a quote quill. It is my go-to tool. It's what I'm most comfortable with, and I prefer inking with the nib because I do like crisp, sharp lines. And with the brush, I can get crisp lines with the brush, but I'm just much more confident with the nib, although I do ink with the brush as well. I ink around the figures until I gain my confidence, and I build up a rhythm. And once I get that rhythm started, and then after that it's just a matter of just keeping the momentum going and just keep working through the page. And this is actually a video log that I decided to videotape my first work experience. And this is actually my first time inking over someone else's original art. The only time I've ever inked over original art directly over the pencils is inking over myself. For my portfolio, inking over David Finch and many other artists, I was inking over blue line, which is where I take the line art and convert it into blue line in the program Photoshop, and then I would print it out onto Bristol board, so it would be a print that I would actually ink over. In this case, this is actually inking over the exact same Bristol board that Dave Finch actually drew on. So I didn't know exactly what to expect, but as I mentioned before, luckily the paper was great paper for ink, and I didn't have any trouble at all. And as I mentioned before, the only difficulty I had was inking the pencil underneath. And the pencil, the graphite will sit on top of the surface of the fibers on the Bristol board. So when you apply ink all over that, it layers, and you have ink on top of graphite that is on top of the Bristol board. So when you go to erase the pencil underneath, and you want your inks to remain, but if there's a lot of graphite in the heavy shaded areas, then the ink doesn't actually pass through the graphite and absorb into the Bristol board. So it sits on the surface of the graphite. So when you erase it, it actually removes the graphite and lightens up your inks. So then you have to go back and touch up your inks in certain areas. And this being my first time inking over an original and discovering all that, I learned very quickly how to work with that. So one of the advantages to keeping a video log is that I can go back and look at my first work experience and both have the memory and get to relive the experience of my first time working with a professional artist. And the second part is that I can actually view my ink work, and I can go through and sort of evaluate some of my artwork and look back and get to see myself actually work. There's some things that I now know that I didn't know at that time that if I could go back, then I would do differently. But honestly, I mean, the ink work on the line work that I placed on for the original is actually a very good quality, and I'm very satisfied with it. And most of all, I'm happy that Dave was really happy with it. One of the things that he said was that that I really kept the flavor of the artwork, and that it's either something you have or you don't have, and that I may not have the cleanest line work, and Scott Williams said that anybody can learn to throw a clean line. Eventually, you're going to get clean lines, and anybody can learn how to do that. But either you have or you don't have the ability to be able to quickly interpret the penciler's vision or their art style. And I think really the big advantage for me is that I actually learned how to render from David Finch.
So it isn't that difficult for me to interpret his art style. It's a language that I speak, and so it's very easy for me to go in there where David sometimes, not in this particular piece, but there have been other covers and pieces that Dave and I have done since this cover, and where the pencils have been loose, and I've been able to go in and finish up little areas and things like that, and Dave's been really happy with that. Not only do our art styles mesh well together, my inks and his pencils, on top of that, one of the benefits is that our personalities really blend well together as well. Since then, David and I have become friends, and we do chat quite often. Now, if you've been following my videos, you may be aware that I was building a comic book folio in hopes to become a professional comic book inker and hope to get work. I started back in November last year and started to build the channel and started logging videos and decided that I was going to share my experience building a portfolio and sharing the knowledge that has been given to me. I did have the privilege of living next door to a professional inker who at that time was working for Wildstorm. Even though I didn't have an interest in inking at that time I wanted to be a comic book penciler. I was very interested in drawing and only interested in drawing, but I absorbed a lot of information without even trying to, but just being in that environment and just being around an inker and having different discussions with him and talking with him and getting to hear what it was like for him, sharing his experience as an inker. And so I absorbed a lot of knowledge from him and learned about the tools and the proper tools to use. And so things have changed. This is back in the 90s, and the type of tools are a bit different now. There's different types. So the tools that you see here that I'm using, or the supplies that I'm using in the video, I'm not trying to say that at all that it's the only tool to use. Really, to be honest, the correct tool is the one that you're most comfortable with and the one that gives you the line work that you're looking for and the line work and quality that the artwork requires. And then that's the tool that you want to use. If it's a Pigma pen and that's giving you the type of line work that the penciler is looking for, then by all means use a Pigma pen. Here for this work, and since I like the angular lines and the crisp lines, and some of Dave's favorite inks are some of them are nib inkers, and there are some that have inked over him that are brush inkers that are extremely talented, and these guys do amazing work. But since I'm most comfortable with the nib, and Dave's very happy with the type of line work, so that's the tool that I use when I ink over him. When inking on a piece like this, I'm not only inking this piece with a nib. It isn't 100% nib. There's brush integrated in between there, little bits and pieces. I actually use a wide variety of different tools to complete my work. It just depends on what the artwork requires. Some of it is calligraphy nibs. Most of it is quote quill. Some of it is brush. Some of it is even tech pen. Although I don't use tech pen very often, but there are certain areas and times that I do require tech pen. Most of my technical lines and straight lines are done with a straight edge and a nib. So building that comic book portfolio and starting a channel online gave me the exposure, and that's how Dave Finch found me. It isn't necessarily just having a channel and building a portfolio. It's also, as David said, is that the work is there, meaning that my inking ability is at a professional level. It's at a point where I'm good enough to get work, and I'm very happy for that. I think I was at the point where I just needed the exposure, and that's where the YouTube channel came in, and it was a benefit for me. it gave me that exposure. And Dave just happened to be surfing YouTube at that time, and he discovered my channel. And so before that, I had done previous work with amateur pencilers who have since gone on to become professionals, beginning artists who are early in their career, are just starting out. And a lot of the books that we worked on, and this was back in 2007, and a lot of the books that we worked on were independent books, or books that were done by self-publishers who had hired us for little or no money at all. So I would recommend, if you're getting your start out and you want to get exposure, because that's really a big benefit is to get the exposure. So in trying to establish yourself, you want to take on projects that are going to give you the exposure, books that are going to be published regardless of the amount of pay. And I'm very grateful now to be working with such an established artist that I get invited on to many of these high-profile projects. This particular project, although it's just the cover, but it's for the large comic book event, which is a big project for Boom Studios. It's actually going to span over 2 different titles. They're Go-Go Power Rangers and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And this is a retail incentive cover. So this is going to be a less of a print run for the cover, but yet it's going to be much more sought after. So it is going to be a large amount of exposure for me, getting a high-profile cover. And I've been told that I've established myself as hardworking and dependable. We've worked on several different projects, and each project has had a different type of deadlines. There was one in particular that needed to be done right away, and even though I'm a new inker, I was able to work quickly enough and maintain the quality of line work, and was able to meet that deadline. And so was able to establish right away and show that I have a good work ethic. And so I'm very grateful that both the editors and the artist, David Finch in this case, were all very satisfied and impressed with the quality of work and the way that I approach work and how serious I take each project. And at the same time, I really have a lot of fun working on these projects for several different reasons. I mean, one is that I really enjoy what I do, and you have to really enjoy what you do and have fun. And when you enjoy your work, then you're much more productive. And the second thing is that I really admire the artist that I'm working over. I've been a big fan of David Finch's work for many years, and to now be a part of that, to be a part of the artwork that I've admired for so long, just brings me great joy, and it really doesn't feel like work. I really enjoy working directly with David, and get to see his work evolve and get to be a part of that, because our two styles really do mesh very well together. They complement each other. So this being my first project really gave me a lot of experience in just this one cover, and we've done several since this particular one. But it gave me the experience to get to work with a really talented team. I also got to work with an extremely talented colorist named Trina Farrell, and she's extremely talented. I really enjoy her color work, and just the choices of colors in her palette that she uses. It's just amazing, and it really complemented the artwork very well. And to be part of such a professional team, and to be a part of people who enjoy what they do, and they all take the work very seriously, and everyone on this project worked really hard. So it was really good to be part of that, and I got to learn from each one of them. And David's wife, Meredith Finch, kept all our emails in one thread and kept the communication organized. So it flowed very smoothly. And I got to work with the senior editor at Boom Studios, Dafna, and he's a really great guy, and it was a pleasure to work with him. I hope to work with him again in the near future. And in the past, I've worked as a freelance graphic designer, and I've worked as a freelance web designer. So working from home isn't something new for me, and having the discipline to organize your time, be able to avoid distractions, because there are going to be a lot of distractions when you're working at home. And so you really have to take the work seriously. So if you're an aspiring artist and you do want to become a freelance artist or inker, it's just one thing to get the work and to get the attention of editors and publishers. Once you receive the work, then you have to take it seriously, and you have to approach it as such, as work, and you have to discipline yourself, and a lot of that comes over time. And I think what really helped me meet that deadline on one of the covers that was needed right away was the fact that I already had years of experience working from home. And as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, is that the particular paper that this is drawn on is Strathmore artboard, and I'm assuming that it's a 500 series, that it was a smooth surface, but it's a great artboard, and it took the ink very well. Also, I've had the opportunity to ink David Finch on a particular piece of art on the DC artboard, and that artboard was extremely high quality. I enjoyed it. It took the nib very well. It took my brush really well. I've heard a few other inkers have mentioned that not all the DC artboard has been of high quality, or maybe in the past. But as far as I know, the artboard that I used was I was very pleased with it. I really enjoyed it. And this particular artboard as well. So if you're an aspiring inker and you can, and you get the opportunity and can afford the 500 series, I would recommend getting the quality type of paper like this, so that you can get the cleanest line possible, especially when you're building a portfolio. Just go ahead and invest in the 500 series plate, which is extremely smooth, or the smooth surface. And then go ahead and print your blue line directly on that, your blue line artwork on that, and ink over, good quality paper. And once you have a good portfolio, then you want to go ahead and, get as much exposure as you can. Use social media, get your work out there, and share it with as many people as you can. You want to have an online portfolio, and if you can, go out and go to conventions. A good way for inkers to get work as well is to meet pencilers. If you find a penciler who really enjoys your inks, wants to try you out over their pencils, that's a good way to become part of a team and to receive and get work. And I'm currently establishing myself as someone easy to work with. And I'm very grateful that now there are different people that want to work with me now. And there's more and more people that do want to work with me, and a lot more interest in my ink work. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. Things are moving very quickly for me now. So I am looking forward to the future, and hope to, looking forward to bigger and brighter things. And as I've mentioned, I'm really happy and really enjoy working with David, working directly over his pencils. That I hope to be working with him for a very long time, and will definitely continue to work with him as long as he will have me, as long as he's happy with my work. And so I hope that goes on for quite a long time. When inking, my goal is to have the next line that I place down better than the previous line. I want to improve with each and every new line that I put down. I want every new piece that I work on to be better than the last. I'll be posting very soon the second time that I get to work with David Finch on the Charlie's Angels cover, and if you haven't seen that online yet, you can find that on the Previews World website. And I will be posting the video and talking a little bit about my experience and my approach and inking process for that cover. And hopefully in the second video, you'll see improvement in my work. That's my goal, is to improve with each new page that I work on. I'm now very fortunate to have not only just a mentor, but also having a friend who's such an established artist that whenever I have a question about working in the comic book industry or even art itself, is that he's only a phone call away. And Dave is really, really helpful. And he and I talk quite a bit. In this part of the video here, this is actually where I actually take a break for the first time. I actually worked through lunch and continued working on until the evening, and this is actually where I stopped to have dinner. Then I returned back to inking the page. The cover wasn't due for a few more days, and I actually finished this cover 4 days early. It really worked out because Saban, the company that licensed the property to Boom Studios, had a few costume changes, and I was free and able to make and adjust those changes, and I did those patches in Photoshop. And I got that back to them right away so they can get it approved by the company Saban. I usually have a television show playing in the background as I'm working.
I've actually done worse. Remember that time I threw you in the pool and told you that's how you're gonna learn how to swim? Then I realized I couldn't swim myself. Thank God for that rescue dog, huh?
That happened? I thought that was a movie you took me to.
Please, like I ever took you to a movie.
That's Cedric the Entertainer on the television show Superior Donuts, where he guest stars as the father. I like to put shows on in the background that I've already seen, so that as I listen to them, I can remember what is actually happening on the show visually. So I have it on in the background as a white noise, ignoring the television really, and hyper focusing on the artwork that's on my drafting table. In previous videos, I've shared my thought process on why I place certain lines and how I place those lines, and why I'm using certain tools, and as well as how I use those tools. For this video, just talk about the work experience and what it was like my first time working on a high-profile property like this, and working with a top talented penciler like David Finch. And what it was like for me working with editors and getting to work with a really great team of people. At this point here, I wanted to clean up some of the line work, so I started erasing a little early. This way, if there are any additional lines that I want to clean up, while I still have the nib out, I'm still inking a few other small areas, I can go ahead and do that at the same time. Well, if you've enjoyed the video, be sure to like, and please do subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.
They could have been gods.